So my name's Lauren Harding. I'm from GHD, and that's a consultancy. So I am a senior social sustainability consultant.
And I'm Jo Anne Rey, a Dharug Woman, and we've worked with, Dharug Community has worked with GHD and Lauren on the projects towards the return of the Blacktown Native Institution into Dharug hands.
The site that Jo mentioned was owned by Landcom. So Landcom was our client, and we've been working with them, and Landcom have been working with Dharug Community for over 20 years on this particular site. And we were helping them and working with community and others such as Blacktown Council and Blacktown Arts Centre and Museum of Contemporary Art, and all these different players as part of the process of working out how to transfer ownership of the Blacktown Native Institution site back to the traditional owners, the Dharug people.
That's right. So it was specifically the final phase was around 5 years, and that was how long we've all been working together, it was a process very much of learning to trust, because there's been a lot of history between Dharug community and government in the past that has fallen over in terms of trying to create a way that we can manage this land and have this land. From a Dharug perspective, this is absolutely historic, because this is the first time any land has been given back to Dharug community since 1788. So for 231 years, land has been removed from community, and this project was all about getting it back, and we achieved that, which was really a fantastic event on the 13th of October 2018. The principles of trust, principles of listening, principles of being honest and open, and practicing patience, I think, was an all-round part of that process, and communication. Really good communication skills, I think, were really important. And as Dharug, we who were on the interim working committee, we had to go back and communicate our process and our way with community. So open communication was really important in that process. So,
yeah, for sure. So Jo mentioned the interim working group. So that was one tool, and was really critical in the success of the project. So that was, I guess, a working group of Dharug community members that were self-selected, and that was a process that community told us they wanted to run, and that's how they wanted to work with Landcom and with GHD. So that was one really critical factor. And as Jo mentioned, it was the responsibility of you and the other committee members to report back to community and listen to their concerns and bring that back into the process.
Yeah.
And then I think one of the other key ones was we had a bit of an innovative engagement process in that Blacktown Arts Centre with the Museum of Contemporary Art, with a program that they have out west called C3 West. When I say out west, I mean Western Sydney. And they ran an artist program which was all around the site, and it brought people onto the site. It brought community together, and it had all these different workshops and programs that were all around I guess, cultural practice, but also art, different art workshops and so on. And I guess that was just really critical in that kind of healing process, both within community, between community and government, and just getting people onto country.
Yes, that was a very important part of that process. It gave community people opportunities to tell their stories of connection to the site as well, and in a variety of ways. So while there was a facility at one of the camps for oral storytelling, but there was also the artistic representations that spoke to the narratives of the colonial history and the sadness that is attached to the lives of the children that were originally taken. So that site, along with the Parramatta Native Institution, represents really the beginning of the stolen generations. So it has huge importance for not just Dharug, but for Aboriginal people who are connected in any way to that colonial narrative, and even for later generations who were part of stolen generations. So bringing people, as you say, onto the site was really part of the way that community could then renew relationships, both with the land as well as with the with other Dharug people, and as well as through that artistic lens. Yeah. Well, I think we were on a learning journey for myself. So the whole thing was fairly a process of not knowing where we were going, in the sense of we all wanted an outcome. We weren't quite sure how we were going to achieve that, and there was certainly no set plan of, we jumped through this hoop, then that, then that, then that. Not till very close towards the end did we get a sense of that this could be achievable. So that process of engaging was full of unexpected twists and turns and things like this as we proceeded. I guess the changes in staff from the client, Landcom, caused surprises at that time, because it meant we had a sense of, oh my goodness, what's the next person going to be like? We're going to have to build the trust with that person. Is it going to work? All those questions really play into that process. So if they're described as surprises, then there was a few along the way.
Yeah, I think what Jo was just saying about some of those surprising elements about different people coming into the project and needing to spend that time getting to know them and building that trust. And I think that was one of the challenges, is trying to build trust with different people, and it was a long time frame of the project, and so having that continuity was challenging, and that was from, I think, all parties involved. And when you've got a project that's 5 or 6 years, you're going to have team members change. So that was challenging, I think, at times, but I guess the way we overcame that was there were people who were involved all the way through, and that provided that continuity.
Yes, that the sense of continuity is really important, I think, to the process. But I think just, overcoming people's concerns about what's gone on in the past and actually moving beyond that was a challenge, which had to be addressed and was addressed, and actually required people to be more open than perhaps they might have originally anticipated. So, there were challenges, but there was opportunities, so that when we did get the team together that that really produced a lot of momentum in the process, then that was fantastic. That was a really great, because then we all knew we were all on the same page and getting moving forward. Yeah, getting somewhere. What I found was really rewarding was the relationships, and which have been created through that process, and the friendships and almost family now that we feel that this sort of bond, because we've travelled so far and developed such trust, and of course the overall most fantastic thing was that we actually achieved the goal of getting the land back, and that was amazing.
Yeah, I agree with everything Jo said. I think wasn't quite expecting to develop such strong connections, and we are like family now, and we're friends, and having that trust placed in me, I feel, is a really great responsibility as well, especially with Dharug community, and such a momentous, I guess, thing that we achieved for community together is just so special to me, and spending time with everyone and learning about Dharug culture and what life is like for Dharug people, and it's been amazing to be part of that process, and just get to know Jo and others really well. I think what we've reflected on is the need to have the right people on the project, and I guess for us that means people with some level of cultural awareness. If they don't have that, then I guess the right intent to learn.
That's really important.
And kind of, we experienced if people came into our meetings and didn't come with that attitude, then it did set us back a little bit in terms of that relationship building and that trust, and took a little while to build that back up to then keep moving, because I think that trust and relationships are just such a key part of not only this project, but I think working with Indigenous peoples.
Yes, I think so. And that having that understanding that it's not just bottom line, timetable, dollars, all those business priorities that a lot of organisations and companies have isn't the way we do business. And we do business through direct relationship and that trust building and what we call yarning, and having time and giving time. And I think so while we managed to do that, there was occasionally people came in thinking, all right, we're going to get this done, boom, 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 boom. It just doesn't work like that, does it? No. And so it's outside that corporate framework that I think we had our most success by actually working slowly and steadily.
I think in terms of the spectrum, the different levels of engagement and what you are promising to your community, that changed over the course of the project, and it changed depending on who we were speaking with. So the interim working group, it was certainly at that collaborate, empower end of the spectrum. And I think that's something we developed over time as well, through that kind of trust building, and I think us and learning over time that it wasn't going to work if we said, oh, this is how it's going to be and this is what we need to achieve. We needed to actually shift the power balance and be more equal.
Yes, that was really, I'm very conscious of that actually, that we were given opportunities without being made to feel we were being matronised or patronised. And those opportunities actually and were empowering as we went through the process. So, and the client, as well as GHD, enable, and we're conscious of that. I really think with, that at certain points they were really conscious that we needed certain information, and from that point we could then move forward. And unless that empowerment and that trust happened, then it was not going to progress. And so, yeah, I think the trust building is the empowering approach. So two-way trust, very important. Yeah.
So I think lessons that I've taken away for my practice on other projects, especially with Indigenous communities, but not just Indigenous communities, it's around that respect and the mindset as well. So coming into the process, not knowing the answers and being really honest about that and humble. And also, I guess, in that humility, acknowledging that you're probably going to make mistakes and apologising when you do and trying to learn from them. And we've talked a lot about trust, but I think what sits behind that is that time and really spending time and building relationships and getting to know each other as humans, not just as a community member that I need information from. I think they're some of the key things that I've really learnt and I'm trying to apply to my other projects. I think some of my key tips or learnings or things that are really effective, I think, are being genuine and having the right intent. And I think that comes back to doing a bit of research at the start about who you're going to be talking to and what their history is. And but at the same time, with that research doesn't come the answers. So coming with an open mind and being honest about that. Another key learning and key is about trust and just spending time and getting to know the people that you're working with. And I think for working with Indigenous communities, relationships are so important, and if you don't build those, then you're not going to get very far.
No, it's absolutely it's a respect, practicing respect as opposed to just a superficial approach to respect. I think is really important. And listening, I think something that's a skill that a lot of us don't. We take it for granted and we think, oh yes, we think we've heard. But there's a lot of levels to listening and allowing the humanity of the other person, because we've all got aspects in our lives that we all have to negotiate and deal with outside of that project, and listening and accepting that this is colouring the process as we go through is absolutely integral, I think, to working with Indigenous people. So you might have an appointment or a meeting set up for a certain time, but, you know, sometimes the children become ill or something, and so things don't happen to the pace that we might have anticipated, so that requires flexibility. And so flexibility, listening, and absolutely about relationships and practicing patience, I think is really important. Yeah.
Agreed.